I'll call us to order at 7 p.m. This is the July 11th, 2024 meeting of the Durham Historic District and Heritage Commission. First thing, we'll just do a roll call. Michael, we'll start with you.
Michael Barrett, Town Planner. Mike Hoffman cannot make it today. I guess Charlotte is on Zoom.
Charlotte is coming.
Okay.
Jennifer Becker, alternate.
Aaron Wolfson-Suppian.
Carolyn Singer.
Larry Brickner Wood, the chair.
Eric Lund, Town Council Rep.
Sally Tobias, Planning Board Rep.
Tom Janos, alternate.
All right, and Charlotte, is Rachel, is Charlotte out there yet?
Not yet.
Okay. So for the time being, until Charlotte gets here, we have Mike and Charlotte not here. So Jennifer and Tom will seat you both. If Charlotte joins us, I think it's your turn, Jennifer, in the rotation for alternates. Okay. Yeah, if we all do it in person, we don't have to do a roll call for every single thing. Okay, approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any abstentions? Agenda is approved. Next item is approval of the minutes. We didn't really get them much in advance, so
Sorry about that.
yeah, my suggestion is just to hold them till August, and we'll do 3 sets of minutes in August, if that's okay with you all. Okay. Public comments. This is an opportunity for anyone here not, for an item not on the agenda. Even if it is, but you're welcome to come up and address the commission. The only thing we ask is you go to the microphone there or at the table and state your name and where you're from. Am I right to assume you all are here for this? Okay, great. Rachel, is there anybody on Zoom?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Well, you don't have to be that formal, but thank you. That's the nicest I've been addressed in a long time. All right, so our first item of real business, item 8, is for 53 Baghdad Road. It's a discussion with Frank. Now, Frank, how do I say your last name?
Okay, in French it's Lavalier, but in English it's Lavalier.
Lavalier, okay, well, I'm Irish, so I won't even try the French pronunciation. Who is planning to purchase 53 Baghdad Road, about his plans for the property. The original gambrel structure was built in 1713. Several additions were appended onto the original in later years. The site is not located in the Durham Historic District or acting as the Heritage Commission. So thank you very much for coming. Really appreciate it. And
Michael invited me, so I figured, well, this is
good.
an opportunity
Well,
to see
he's invited other people who've just said no. So, well, we really appreciate it. We know that it's not in the district, but it's certainly a building of interest. So if you and anyone else would like to come, we just ask you to come up to the table so we can hear you, but it's also for folks who might be hearing this later. So thanks for coming, and Michael has sent us some pictures and a sense of your plans for the property, but if you want to give us a quick thumbnail of what you'd like to do.
First off, we were looking at this piece of property, not knowing that it had any historical building on it per se. That
Frank, can you bring the mic closer?
Sure. That would have any bearing on purchasing the property, but after we found out that it was a 1700s building and the Historical Society may want to have an interest in it, I figured, well, Michael brought that up. And so I'm here to see exactly, is this place something that needs to be kept? And for me, it's like, have any of you been to that building?
Yes, we had a site visit. I know, Carolyn, you went. I know, Michael, you've been in it. I'm not sure who else, but yeah.
Okay. And Jonathan, what's his last name?
McGregor, is it the owner?
Oh, Chesley.
What is it?
Jonathan Chesley. That would be good.
That was the original builder of the place, right?
Oh, Chesley.
Chesley, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And he was from the British Army. He was a captain. And what else do we know about him? You know? So I don't know, I'm just finding this stuff out. So I'm leaning on you people to, what is it about this building that is precious to you that you really want to keep it? And if we keep it, to preserve it the way it is, but I would want to make it into an ADU. In today's society, they want a place to live that has all the modern conveniences. So we could do that by taking the tool shed and make it that into the main house and make an ADU and pretty much keeping it what it is for the historical house. This way it would preserve it, whether someone had an in-law that wanted to stay there or some children, or even if they had a renter, it would help pay for the taxes and make it user-friendly for the building. This would keep the property as is, so it would stay historical.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it would serve a function, one, being historic, and two, it would bring in some type of income or help preserve some capital for the in-laws or the children. So that would make financial sense. Not so much historical society sense, but it would, someone's going to have to purchase this piece of property with a plan. And so I don't know if there's any funds that the Historical Society have. Maybe you guys want it, I don't know, you know, so I'm like, I'm just here to find out.
Sure. When we're the historic district, we're kind of a quasi-judicial regulatory board. As we're just commission that's really interested in historical and cultural things. Our budget is smaller than probably what's in my wallet at the moment, but we have a keen interest, and particularly in ways we can partner with others in trying to preserve buildings, particularly in properties, particularly outside of the historic district. Michael did send us some description of what you'd like to do around the accessory dwelling, and that it probably would require some very
Possibly. It looks like it has enough land we could subdivide it into a second lot. And that's what makes it feasible to do this.
Okay.
If we restore the first piece of property where the older building remains intact and we put a livable residence on the first half, then it could be sold. We're not going to make anything on that first part of the building. It won't be, it would be like zero. The only piece of property that's going to be worth it is if we subdivide it and get the second piece of property off of it, then it makes it feasible. But in doing so, we preserve the historic house. We keep it the way it is. It'll be some modernization, some, because there's no heat in there. The roof is coming down and it needs repair. It's got old shingles. It's been restored to some point. It was like back in the 1970s that the original owner that owns it now was restoring it. Original, as far as he knew, way. I don't know what it looked like back in 1716s. I don't know that they had that type of shingles back then. It's got wood shingles on the roof. I'd like to put standard shingles that would last the weather, because otherwise you're replacing the roof all the time.
Right.
Try keeping the outside pretty much the same. The kitchen is a newer addition, so at that point, it's already new anyway, so, but it's made to look old, but we want to modernize it a little bit in the bathroom for the old section.
Okay.
So,
So
and I don't know what is the criteria for keeping it old. That's why I'm here.
yeah, well, our interest is, one is the age of the building, its historic nature. It's also, a very attractive building, and it's a piece of history that we've lost throughout the years. Many of the buildings of that vintage aren't here anymore. They've been deteriorated to a place where they can't be rehabilitated or restored. Right. So this is an opportunity really to do that, and we're certainly interested in having someone who would like to do that. Our primary, when we're in the historic district, is the parts of the building that can be visible from the public right away.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we don't have an interest on the inside, but that's primarily where we focus on. And people like Carolyn, Charlotte Hitchcock, who's on our commission, and others are particularly have great expertise in the standards of the Secretary of the Interior's standards for historic properties, as well as things that can be done because they've worked with it I don't want to volunteer you, but I just know that there's a lot of expertise that could be brought to bear.
Well, it's a pretty significant building, let's put
Okay.
it that way. I think I don't want to say it's the earliest in Durham, but it's among the earliest. And I think it would be tragic if it was torn down. But I've been in it, and I think there's a balance between, making a house like that livable. So I get it. And
Who would want to live with no heat?
well, I thought there were other things too that made it a little awkward.
Yeah.
But, the bottom line is, the exterior at least has got to be, I think preserved. And I didn't realize that you didn't have any history on the building, because certainly the Durham Historical Historic Association would have information on the building. I'm surprised that there's nothing on it in the master plan on the website. There should be a section on Durham's history by phases, so I'm sure it's probably listed there. And if you needed guidance on how to preserve it, the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance in Concord, they do this all the time.
So the variance part would be on an ADU, it's 850 square feet, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we have like 1,200 with the kitchen. And that does not count the second floor. And so we would section off the second floor, so we wouldn't use it, it'd be part of the main house. And so that would bring it down to the 1,200, roughly. And that's with the cold spaces, and that's with the chimney. The chimney was quite large because it had fireplaces in every room. And so once we eliminate those spaces, we're getting it down to about 950 or so. But in order to get the variance, I think it would be very helpful if we get a letter from this committee saying that in your favor, so that this way we could preserve it.
All right. Okay, well, yeah,
Can I just note for the record,
Yes.
Charlotte, hi Charlotte. Charlotte's joined us at 7:13 or it's probably 7:12 PM. So Tom is, hi Charlotte, can you hear us?
It's a good while it lasts.
Okay, and we're talking about the property on Baghdad Road.
And we can't hear you.
Yeah,
you're muted.
Okay, yes, I'm here. Sorry to be late.
no worries. I know Michael, we were just, we typically go over the agenda. He mentioned the possibility if we wanted to send comments to the zoning board in support of the variance. So that's something we should talk about.
Right.
And that would be an official action that we would take.
Mr. Barrett provided us with a copy of the tax card for the property. So it looks like if you're including one floor each from the front section and then the next section back from the kitchen, that 1,244 square feet. The fact that you are working within the envelope of a historic house would be a point in your favor for meeting the hardship requirement for a variance.
Well, I would say having the support of the Historical Society would be helpful. So if we had a letter and we brought it up for the variance, and there's no guarantees, I know, but, and we're looking at purchasing it, so.
So can I just clear, we're the Historic District Commission and the Heritage Commission.
Oh, okay.
There's really no historical society.
I'm sorry.
in- That's okay, there's no
Yeah,
historical
yeah.
society.
There is a Durham Historic Association, which is a separate body from us.
And they're the nonprofit, and they have done a lot of research on the Durham properties. So they, I think Nancy Sandberg or Janet Mackey would have a lot of information on the house. And the Chesleys are pretty, it's an early family, so.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not to say that has the commission that we wouldn't write a letter of support. In fact, the nation could on their own do the same. So do you all want to pivot to talking about that?
Well,
Can I
unless Charlotte has some comments about the building?
Go ahead, Charlotte.
No, I don't know what you've said already about the building.
Frank has done most of the talking. Carolyn talked a little bit about the building, but so don't worry about that. So feel free to add anything you would like.
I have a
You know,
question.
I'll just listen for a while.
Okay.
I just a quick question, just to clarify. You're considering, you have an offer in to purchase.
Yes.
The decisions here or what you're able to do, will that have, or the ZBA, will that have any effect on?
Well, the bearing of it would be cost and, I mean, you know, vinyl siding versus wood siding, shingles versus some other type of building material, what we're going to be able to do inside the building for the heating system, those type of things. We want to renovate the bathroom because that part of the building is not old and it needs repair. So those type of things, I just want to make sure that, you know, if we're going to go forward on this, and I just want to be with you guys to see what exactly what we're going to be doing in here. I don't want to be doing anything. I don't want to purchase the property if it's going to cause a lot of problems.
Yeah.
I would try to keep the exterior as close to what's there now as possible. And personally, I think aluminum siding would not be in the best interest of,
Keeping it preserved.
yeah. Yeah. And you're going to put another house on the other lot?
Well, it's a 1 acre lot right now, and we were gonna take the back part of the property and put a new home over there to make it feasible to do this project.
Yeah. So it would be visible from this house, correct?
Yes, it's one big open grass field.
So I guess my question is, do you know what kind of style house, you were...
That hasn't been determined yet.
Because, I
Across
guess...
the street is some brand new houses.
I
right in
know
front
there
of
are. And you
Right.
can get some really nice, historically appropriate houses that are just great. So,
Frank, is that lot currently, is it subdivided already, or would it need to be subdivided?
Well, the good thing is that the property entails 2 lots.
Okay.
And the lot Warwick House is fairly squarish. I think it's about an acre in size. if
It's
I'm
1
remembering
acre,
right.
and it has probably a couple hundred feet on Baghdad Road and a couple hundred feet on Old Baghdad Road.
Right, so it's, the good thing is it can be subdivided readily into a second lot, which would, I think, make it easier for Mr. Lavalier, give him the revenue to better preserve the property. And it looks like it could be readily subdivided such that the second lot would be parallel to Baghdad Road but set back, so that a new house on that would also probably take its access from Old Baghdad Road, hopefully, and the whole yard next to the historic house would still remain. So it would be nice and open from Baghdad Road. That would be great. And the other thing is that the second lot, which is sort of a flagpole-shaped lot, there's a access in and then a big area in the back. I understand it's mostly wet, and then we have the 75-foot wetland buffer. So I don't know if it can be built on, but I suspect there's a decent chance it could be built on, because if there is any area beyond 75-foot wetland, that could be built on. And if not, we do have a special exception that will allow lots in the wetland overlay district to be, you can get a special exception to build on if it's not otherwise spaced. So that's a good possibility. And I say that because that if that allowed a second house that would be in the rear, it wouldn't be very noticeable. And all of this could give some revenue to Mr. Lavalier to do right by the historic house.
Okay, so there are 2 lots there now, but the subdivision would reconfigure them? Like-
No, it wouldn't reconfigure.
Okay.
It would subdivide the main lot with the house into a second
Okay.
lot. So
Right.
it's 2 lots now, and it
Okay.
likely could be 3.
Right,
Okay.
so if you have the email on the subject that Michael sent this morning, lot number 42 is the subject lot, and so is looking at subdividing that lot. Lot 41, which is the flag-shaped lot, is apparently also part of this purchase, even though it's legally a separate lot.
I think Charlotte had her hand up.
Charlotte?
You did clarify that. That was exactly my question, is whether we're talking about a total of 3 lots or 2 lots, and the answer is 3. So thank you.
Right, yeah, it's currently 2, but the proposal would be to stop 42 to make 3.
Okay.
I have one question. I guess I'm still confused. Do you intend to live in that house in the newer portion? That was to
Intend to live
build
there.
land.
No, but it would be a nice house for someone to live in once we make it into the house, the old house, with a new house right next to it attached.
All right, so you're going to build a new house.
There's already an existing structure right there. We just
Okay.
want to
All right.
renovate that one to the point where it's going to be a newer,
Okay.
livable house that'll fit into the style of the older house, and it has to be attached according to the town rules, and it's going to be an ADU. So someone who likes
Okay.
older houses could buy this newer house and live comfortably and have an ADU for either their parents or their kids, or to
Just for
rent
renting.
for up to whatever the rules of the town is.
Yeah, they could. So it would be, you would renovate the entire attached structure with an ADU, an attached single-family house,
And a renovated new house, which is in the other
and then
section.
something on a
Structure already
separate lot.
exists.
Yeah, and then you would be dividing for lot 42 and sell that, subdivide lot 42 and sell that for somebody to build on?
Yeah, we're gonna,
Or you would build it?
we would most likely build it. So we have more control of
Oh, and
what
then
goes
sell
on.
it?
Yeah.
too, Okay, and then see
But
about,
the other one, we probably wouldn't build.
it would be more challenging.
We would probably just sell that lot.
Okay.
Or if you were going to sell it, you could apply for a special exception up front, and if you receive that, you'd be adding value, determining that lot is buildable.
Right. We would do the diligence on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And,
All right.
go ahead, Charlotte.
Yeah, well, what I'm thinking is, the oldest part, the Gambrel house, could be nominated to the state register or to be a local historic property. And even if it wasn't, a good thing for you to do would be to follow the same guidelines that the historic district has in terms of how you handle it, keeping it all the historic windows and siding and all that stuff. So that would be a proposal I would like for us to discuss, sort of voluntarily applying the historic district guidelines to that structure.
Okay, thank you.
We could also, if we had the permission of, the town could seek a certified local government grant to hire a consultant and place it on the state register, if not the national register, which would, I think, add some real value and cachet to the property. I mean, it's certainly, I have to think it would be eligible. But we could hire a consultant to put together the application.
Okay.
But that wouldn't include any, I'm just wondering if you're looking, something you said earlier was what, if there were funds available in aiding you,
Well-
or you,
Well, it's gonna, take a lot to restore this place.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it. It has been restored in the past, and you can see on the structure in the bottom where the main beams are. They cut out some of the old beams and they had to patch in some pieces here and there. The water's coming in through the rocks because they changed the roads around it, and the water in the basement's filling up all the time. There's standing water in there now. So there's like some problems with water underneath there. The electrical panel's all rotted out because of the moisture that's in the basement. The side, the sills, the siding is at the point where it's punky, so it needs to be replaced. The roof is caved in because of time and wear, and so at which point it's like, do we have to replace the roof with the ridge, replace the boards, replace the shingles, replace the siding, and also the windows are the not original windows, but they're older windows. So that brings up another point, and what kind of windows do we put in? Can we put in new windows, or they got to be restored older windows? And then there's the point of the building codes where it's supposed to be an R value. And I know it's a old building, so at which point is we're not supposed to circumvent the building codes unless we get approval, right? So
Now there's, I'm trying to remember, there's a provision that you can work around certain codes, which we actually did for the inn at Coe's Corner. They had a fire code issue with their stairwell. They had to enclose their stairwell by code, but it was determined that that property is historic, so they got an exemption from that. And so you may well be able to get a certain exemption from codes. I'd have to check on that as a historic property, which would not be hard to do.
if not, then we have to put new windows that has the energy code listing. So
We can check on that, and there may
Right.
be some exemptions for some of the code issues.
we could put the wood siding to make it look the way it was. We could insulate the inside
Right, which,
without touching the outside.
yeah, which I don't see what the issue is there to just, it sounds like you'll be doing extensive enough work that you would have a chance to get some insulation blown in to that space while
Right.
you were working on it, and because it's not visible, we would not have an issue with it.
I don't know if it was insulated while they were doing the renovations. That's something we don't know yet. On the
Right.
inside, in the walls.
Right. But if it's feasible, you would certainly be welcome to add more. Okay.
Have you investigated the structure, excuse me, to see whether it's all post, or there is some kind of wall cavity, or is there any chance that it's a really old garrison house with totally solid lumber throughout?
I don't believe it's solid lumber throughout. I believe it's post and beam, and they had the board and bat at one time. And that's how they put the plaster on. There's some outlets in the wall, so there's some thickness to the wall. So I don't believe it's solid wood.
Now, one thought that I've had about dealing with expenses, and either Carolyn or Charlotte would be in a better position to answer this question than I would, is would there be any option for you to,
Okay, well, she can come up.
would there be an option for you to,
Laura has some.
You're
answers.
welcome to sit
Apply
at the
and-
table and also stand at the podium.
right, yeah, but whether there be any possibility of you as an individual applying for grants to preserve the property?
Well, this is a part of what we're preserving the ADU, and we're not going to do much at all to it, except for renovate some of it so it's livable for the ADU. Okay, so by keeping the historic house intact. So Jonathan stayed there at one time and he was comfortable. We're just trying to make it comfortable for someone today and without changing the outside of the house. It's still gonna look the same, but it's gonna be called an ADU. Okay, we're just gonna give it a name. So that's all we're looking at doing.
And go ahead, if you'd like to, the only thing I'd ask is to say your name.
Yep, Laura Cody.
Okay.
So I am an agent with Coldwell Banker.
Okay.
I represent the seller in this transaction and this property. So I have an extensive amount of history. I have read extensively into it, as has the seller. He's a wealth of knowledge and actually knows the entirety of the history of the property, pretty much. So he purchased the property in the 70s and has painstakingly restored it to the condition it is now. It was originally purchased, when he purchased it, it was a very poorly redone, actually rental. Some very bad plaster jobs and bad window additions, very non-historic, non-period window structures on the top floor. So he took that back to what, according to historic value, and again, the earliest pictures, is the most accurate representation of what was a garrison home, and has solid wood walls. So that answers that question. It has absolutely very thick solid wood walls on that existing original structure, which is, according to his dating and everything he's seen, is 1716 as the original beams. And was obviously originally constructed most likely as a garrison, so there were no windows. In 1700, there wouldn't have been, as it was intended as a fortress or protection for the family. So the iterations of the property since then, there was an annex space that was added in the early 1800s from what we think, and then he added a mid-70s modern kitchen and bathroom to the area, and then a second bathroom upstairs that's no longer utilized. As the years have gone on, the restorative measures that he's chosen to go with have been minimal. He is very comfortable with the property as it is. It makes perfect sense to him and for the uses that they have for it now. In modern expectations and modern conveniences, it's not for everyone. It needs significant renovation. The issue, as we all know, with historic homes and the reason that he has been reluctant and has chosen not to register the property and not to pursue that, how cost prohibitive it is to renovate a home that is quite literally sinking into the ground and has significant foundation work that needs to be completed. He has stewarded this property for 50 plus years and is done. He's tired and needs to give it to the next iteration of whatever that is. He did prepare a letter that he would love for me to present to you all, and I'm happy to give it to you. I would rather not read it, but I would be happy to provide it. Yeah, or we can put it on record. I don't know what all you.
Sure, Debbie, thank you. Just
Yeah.
hand it to Tom.
He wasn't able to be here. He's 5 hours away at his property in Maine, so would very much have loved to give his insight. But he's a wealth of knowledge on the property. Obviously, as somebody who took the time, energy, and effort on his own to continue the preservation, he would very much love for that to be its next iteration and for that to be what happens. However, we all acknowledge the fact that doing so is cost prohibitive. It's an extremely expensive endeavor for anyone to take on. And in order to do so, there has to be some give on the other benefits of the property, like Frank had already discussed. Insofar as the subdivision of the second half of that lot, we all have some ideas as to how that probably could work. And it sounds like, everyone's kind of understands that the value of the land is really important in order to support the further restorative work on the original property. So, yeah. That's the background.
Thank you.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
great. And so I think, so there's one copy of the letter?
There's one copy of the letter. I actually have the original, and then I'm happy to email it also if that's
Sure,
easier.
and we can also
I'll copy
make
and send it out
copies.
to everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Scan it out to everyone.
So Frank, is your purchase of the
So it
property
says
is a
right-
contingent upon
penmanship.
getting approval for, or the variance for the ADU?
Well, it was what, 2 weeks now? Since we put in the
We've been under contract
Yeah.
2 weeks.
2
yeah.
weeks now. So we're looking at all the different avenues. And so in order to make this doable and preserve the property, this is what the plan we came out with that makes financial sense to me and also probably to Laura, that someone would pick up the burden of doing this project and also make it financially feasible to do this project. And so it would maintain the building, and also if someone likes historical houses, they would have a historical house, and they would have a new house and be able to enjoy it on their own property. So they would have the house that they live in attached to the ADU, which is a historical house. So it makes sense to me that if I could do the ADU, then it looks like it could be a project that we're willing to entertain. Now, this is the only criteria that I'm looking at right now, and to just restore this historical house, no one's gonna buy it for that price. Nobody.
Yeah.
So something has to happen, and right now it's not registered or anything.
Nope.
And
And he is not intending to do so. That would not
and
be
it's-
at
the
this
reason
point.
it's too expensive.
It just, he has long said that, you know, by doing so, he does not feel that he has the ability to then return it to the fashion in which he would want to. And he knows that that would tighten the stipulations on what he is able to do with his property.
No, well, if it was placed on either the state or the national register, that would have no effect on, no control. You could still do anything you wanted with it.
Okay,
It's only an honorific kind of thing. There's
Gotcha.
nothing regulatory.
okay.
Okay,
So we'll say I don't buy it, okay? Then we're back to square one, right, Laura?
Back to square one.
And how long have you been trying to sell this?
A year.
And how many do you get?
A lot. So this, it gets significant, we've had significant interest throughout. It's just been a matter of finding a buyer who is willing to do the restorative work and or see the value in the entirety of the parcel and what the entirety of the parcel and property has to offer. And I think Frank's, you know, right on the ball with where he would like for this to go. It's just gonna be a matter of figuring feasible to make the restorative measures come together, or if it's not. And if it's not economically feasible for that to happen, what's the next iteration or step for this house? And I think, you know, in solid efforts of all of us wanting for that to be the direction it goes, and because it is a beautiful home, and has so much to offer, it would be absolutely in its best interest for the town to be in support of that measure and to give some to be able to make sure that the future owner can make it into something that's a profitable endeavor and a preservative measure at the same time.
Did you consider putting the accessory dwelling unit at the back side, at the newer portion, and having the older part be where you know, the owner would live?
So what you're saying is the older part of the building is where the main house would be?
Oh, we'll say, you know, if you did rehabilitation work and then sold it and it was set up so that, you know, a buyer, somebody wanted their own home and that they would be living in the older part of the house and
They could
then
do
have
that.
just an accessory dwelling unit, a portion of the furthest section of the building. So they would actually be able to live in the historic part.
They could if they wanted to.
All right. And what is the size of the other portion of the property which would include, which you're proposing to be the main house?
Do you have a plan on that?
No plans.
No? No? Well, right next to the older building, there's a 20 by, I believe it's 35 foot building, and it's a garage shed type thing. And it's not that old, but it's made to look old. And that one, we would restore to a garage. And then the, what do you call it, the tool shed?
Yes.
Yeah, and
wood
it's got a
shop.
little workshop,
yeah.
workshop. So that work is actually a pretty good size. I don't know the exact square footage of it,
Right, he would, I don't.
right? But it's big enough to make it into a comfortable home for someone. So we're not adding any structures, we're just fixing the structures.
Well, I'm asked, because I think the zoning board would ask you, why, rather than pursue a variance for a larger ADU in the front, what if you design the structure so that the ADU is way at the far end in the newer building? That block is probably more than 850, but if a portion of that was turned into an ADU and the rest of the sections were set up for a single-family house,
Well,
would that be workable?
Well, the old building, if you look at the size of the room, the stairs are very narrow. It's hard to get up. You can't get any furniture up there. You can't get a bed, you can't get a bureau up there. It is so difficult to go on the second floor. It's just not user-friendly to make the old house the main house. If you went there, which you can, and take a look at it, you would see that it is not going to be desirable for someone to have that as the main house unless they really like old houses. And I think that the population is slimming down these days on people who really want to live in an old house. So,
Looks old, but is new, is usually the
yeah.
push.
So that's why we're kind of entertaining, not really messing up the old house at all, but making it livable for an ADU.
Okay.
And the bottom floor, which would have a bedroom, the living room, and the kitchen, basically, is all that it would have. So taking out the second floor with the two bedrooms, which is very narrow, and going up those stairwells would be very, very difficult. So this way, it's just one floor, you walk in, the kitchen, the living room, and the bedroom. And we have the bathroom on the kitchen, so that's all you need. So it would make it easy, and you don't destroy the place, you could maintain the place, you could keep the place the way it is. So it just makes it easier to do it that way. And then someone who likes historical houses would have one, and also the new house would make it comfortable for the owner to live in. So
Yeah,
it just
sounds
makes
good.
more sense on a sale point that you have a new house with a historical house that you're buying as an ADU. It just makes sense.
Right.
Charlotte?
Yeah, so I think I'm convinced by your argument. I think the ADU is a good use for the little old house. But I think that in order for us to support what you want to do, there needs to be some assurance that it's going to remain historic and be treated according to the Secretary of the Interior standards of the quality of restoration or rehabilitation, just like any other building in the historic district. And so that's where I would see that where we have some discussion would be, can we come to a arrangement where you do enough assurance, whether it's agreeing to have it be listed as a local historic property or a state registered property or whatever, to us that you will do it all according to the correct standards of historic rehabilitation. And in return for all the things you want to do in terms of the subdividing and and rebuilding the existing or other to be the main property. So that's sort of what I would see as the back and forth that we need to agree to.
Are you talking about the exterior or the interior or both?
and I'm not sure we know enough about it, but for sure the exterior. But if it really is a garrison house with, solid, 8x8 timber walls, then it's an incredibly precious resource that the interior, well, I don't know, the structure would be really significant because there's only 2 or 3 garrison buildings left, like one in Exeter, the one at the Woodman Museum, so on, and all the others have been burnt or torn down or whatever. So it has potential to be a really, really precious resource.
Thank you. Other folks?
I'm in favor of variance. I mean, I don't know if there's really any leg to stand on to try to get some sort of binding agreement, so to speak, but, it sounds like this is maybe the best bet for any sort of preservation on the property. I'm sure that many buyers would be a lot more likely just to demolish it and start from scratch. So I think that, I'm in favor of endorsing the variance to convert to an ADU. If with the idea that allows it to be preserved historically in at least some manner.
Yeah, I get the sense that if you are not able to turn that into an ADU, that it's just going to,
I'm gonna walk away, someone's gonna purchase it.
someone else may
They're
come
gonna get a
along,
demolition permit, and it's gonna be gone.
and it's probably going to come down. Now, the pictures on the MLS, those are the new house?
This is, I can show you it, actually. This
Yeah,
is
no,
not
I've
real
got
quick,
it. No, I've got it up on.
Oh, you have it, okay. Yeah, so this is the historic
That's the
section
historical one,
here.
and the other
This is
house-
a newer 1973 or 6 section of the property, as is this.
Yeah,
Those are all made to look old, but they are new.
but the pictures are of the older house or the newer section?
Both.
Okay.
Yep, both. So this, the part off to the side here, this is the wood shop area.
Oh, okay.
So this is not finished. It's not a finished space as it exists.
All right, so
This is all finished space.
If you wanna see it, we could arrange it.
No, yeah, I
That's
think
fine.
many of you have
so
been.
there's structural issues and it needs attention or it's just going to crumble. Is
Yeah,
that
it needs
kind
some sill plate work. The roof and the structure of the roof has actually been that way for many hundred. So the biggest things that this property needs is for it to be lifted up in order to do some rebuilding of either the stone foundation as it exists or put in a full foundation underneath. In that letter, you'll see when the property was originally constructed, or not even originally constructed, but in its most recent several hundred years, it stood a great deal above the road. And now with the reconstruction and regrading and the repaving, it now sits below the road grade. It's at least a foot difference. And very, very close to the road, in fact encroaching on the boundaries of the property from the town's road. So part of the issue with the water and the washout and the erosion around the foundation has been the fact that the runoff is just going directly into the house.
And the moisture under the building does not help.
The moisture under the building is what will rot a building. We all know that.
Yeah.
So some water control and diverting of water.
Yeah, it
So
needs
there's a lot of work.
Significant
There's
drainage.
significant work.
Obviously it needs other restorative measures, needs electrical work to be brought up to today's
Code.
standards.
Safe code.
Yeah, I can say, you can say code, I don't have to say code, but today's standards, and as far as, and plumbing as well, so
Right.
plumbing, it needs some structural work, it does have some sill plate rot, there's gonna be some significant restoration and renovation in order to preserve, or continue to preserve this property, and, I think just as Frank had mentioned, and absolutely is a possibility, and we've known this, that somebody could come in and just demo it and utilize those 2 lots as one lot into 2, what they exist, and that might be the fate of the property. So, in my opinion, it would be in the town and in the future of the property's best interest to support any further buyer to do what they can with this property in order to be able to get the the asset from the other lot or lots, and then also to make the best and highest use of the future of the actual existing property.
Yeah, I would be in favor of doing whatever that this group can do to help them financially restore it to a safe and
Are there
presentable.
funds? Yeah. Are there funds available for a buyer to be able to do that?
Certainly not at the local level. Charlotte and Carolyn may be aware,
Not in New Hampshire, because a lot of other states give tax credits and all that, but not New Hampshire.
yeah, so it's limited.
Those things are all available to a building that has been in some way certified as historic by being listed in one of the various levels of historic property. So if it's all it has is the age, there's a lot less available. So the carrot that goes with like tax credits and grants, the carrot has to go with the idea that you would identify it legally as historic.
Yeah,
Now, there is what Charlotte's referring to, there's a historic rehabilitation federal tax credit. Yeah, you may not know about that. If it's listed on, I think even the state register, or at least the national register, or eligible for the register, then you can use this credit. And the way it works is that, once it's in place, eligible around the register, 20% of the total costs that you incur for rehabilitating the structure, according to fairly strict standards, you get that back dollar for dollar. So if you spent, say, $200,000 on a rehab, now I don't know how much it would apply to the new sections, but theoretically maybe it could. Let's say you spent $200,000, it's on the register, you go through the process, which is a little burdensome, you get $40,000 cash back through a tax credit. So, depending on what it would cost you, if you're up for that process, then you get 20% of it covered. This was done when the prior owners rehabilitated the old town hall across the way, and they got a lot of money back to help them. But it's a process. It's something you'd have to be game to do.
And I think also Charlotte had mentioned that then you would be held to the standards of the
Yes.
Department of the, what was it called?
Department of the Interior.
So that was more what I was referencing as far as my sellers, and I'm only representing what he's told me. His reluctance to do so is he's then held to an even higher standard of what needs to be restored and how it needs to be restored.
Not necessarily so.
Okay.
I think, so there are 4 categories of the Secretary of Interior standards. And for example, at Wagon Hill Farm, we're using the least restrictive in a sense, which is called rehabilitation. So you should just take a look at what, those guidelines are, because they're not necessarily, I don't think, that restrictive. You're going to want, I would think, to maintain the features of that house that are culturally and historically unique, which if it's a garrison and those walls are in fact original and solid, that's pretty significant. So you probably won't want to keep that. And I don't personally see it to be that restrictive, because I think people who are going to be interested in a historic house like that aren't going to want to see vinyl windows and aluminum siding on that structure. That's going to ruin it. Let's be realistic. And so, you're going to want to retain, some of those historical qualities that people value.
Yeah, that's a process that it may have pros and cons, but it's certainly something we're supportive of. But it's an analysis that you would have to do, and the town's certainly willing to help go through that. And if there's resources we can help access. I guess for me, just to steer us a little bit, I would like to get back to the support of the variance, because that would be a tangible action we could take, and we can continue to talk, but I've heard at least a couple folks say they could support that. One thing we could do is someone could make a motion. It doesn't mean we're going to vote right away, but at least we could continue the discussion, but we'd have it on the table.
I'll make the motion
The motion to support.
to endorse the
request.
variance to allow
Yeah.
for the ADU to be,
I will second it.
Okay, thank you. We can continue discussion if there's still discussion on this particular aspect. I'm certainly supportive. For the historic reasons too, there's other public benefits as well. Accessory dwellings are pretty common in Durham. Many folks have, helped pay their mortgage and taxes by doing it. So, and also we're in deep need of housing. That might not matter to the zoning board, but it certainly matters to a lot of us.
It matters to the housing task.
It does, and so there's no more.
And to the town council as well.
Yeah, right. So hopefully it'll matter to, but I know they have strict criteria too. So, but it feels just on the historic notion and some of the unique aspects and some of the constraints that I certainly think it's a variance that should be granted. So, any other discussion? Not all those in favor, and then we would write a letter to that regard, and if one of us would like to go to the zoning board, what day is that meeting?
Well, so Frank, would you be applying as soon as you could? Because the next available meeting is, it's about a month. It's the second Tuesday in August, which is whatever that is, 3.5 weeks away.
Okay.
So would you be applying, and the deadline is, it's about a week and a half or something to submit it. And I can help you with the application if you need.
But
Would you plan on
drawings
submitting
and,
for that meeting?
And if we had to do a survey?
Not for the, no, not for the variance. Variance,
Okay.
it's not, we can talk about that. It's not a difficult. So would you
Yeah,
plan
as long
on
as
applying
we're moving
for?
forward on it, then definitely.
It would, yeah, that would be, we'd have to just figure out time.
Yeah.
So that would be the second Tuesday in August, and
Yeah.
you would submit that, and
Yeah.
you'd want to come to the meeting, and I would come to the meeting, we'd have a letter, and maybe a member from the HTC would be there and speak to it, and,
Okay, so if there's no more discussion, all those in favor of,
Charlotte's on Zoom, so we have to do a.
oh yeah, roll call, yeah. If all those in favor, we'll do a roll call vote. So Charlotte, we'll start with you. You're on Zoom.
Okay, yes, I vote for favor.
In favor? Okay. Sally.
Yes.
Eric Lund, aye.
Larry Brickner Wood, yes.
Carolyn Singer, yes.
Aaron Wolfson Slepian, yes.
Jennifer Becker, yes.
It's passes unanimously, so we will write a letter. We'll wait to write a letter until the application's actually in, so that.
Right.
But and then
And I should calendar to check, the second Tuesday in August is the 13th.
okay,
Thank you.
yeah, and I can go, but if someone else would like to go, that's fine. I'd welcome that. They will let us speak, right?
yeah, it's a public hearing, yeah.
Yes.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
All right, and in terms of the broader property, I think hopefully you'll find us, we would love to work with you, as Carolyn and Charlotte and
Definitely,
others have
that's why
said.
I'm here. I
The
want
building's important.
to see
and-
what you guys
Yeah.
Right.
are thinking.
Yeah.
So
Right,
we're going the
right.
right direction. and-
Right, yeah, and as I said before, one of the criteria that you have to meet to get your variance is to show a hardship, and so I would make the point that you are working within the envelope of a historic property, and at least in my opinion, that would constitute a hardship.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And do contact the Durham Historic Association, because they would have a lot of, good information on the house. That probably, it might be different from the owners, but,
I have the whole record from the Historic Commission. They wrote in that, the book of Garrison Homes. It's noted in there from the Historic Society.
they've done a lot of ongoing research, so I would still contact them.
I wasn't planning to restore all of those. Just sort of, that was part of the project.
It just happened.
Well, thanks for your interest in doing it.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
I'll leave this with you also.
Oh, sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank
Did you want the two people, the audience, could you introduce yourselves if you don't mind?
Yeah, you.
My name is Enu. E-N is my first name, Y is my last name. Yeah, my parents own the Chinese restaurant.
Oh, great. Hello.
And owns May
Are
Way.
you just here because you like coming to meetings and?
No, actually, this is like 5th time here already.
Oh, wow.
Well, bless you.
No, Ed is an electrician also.
Since had a new town hall.
He's partnering with me.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, nice.
This is my boss.
That too.
Yeah. And NATO, we
I'm Nate Kane, I'm their realtor.
She's right.
good. Great.
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I have it on the end, yeah, I have it on the end of last.
Thank you. And Michael, thanks for facilitating this.
Yeah, I think that kind of work.
Any other business? Well, okay.
Hearing none, I'll move to adjourn.
Well, just one question.
Go ahead, Tom.
How are we doing with the sign? Or where is it now?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, on the courthouse or Old Town Hall.
Charlotte has written it up. I personally thought it was a lot of text and I wasn't sure people would really read it. So I'm hoping that we can get together and again with the DHA and see if we can cut it down a tiny bit. Tiny bit, only just a little, Charlotte.
So it's in process with some editing. I know we've also looked at some designs.
I already edited it down. When I wrote down everything I knew, of course, it was way too much. So I got what I gave you today, Carol, was edited down quite a bit. But it's hard, you know how hard it is to edit out.
Well, the one
So I need other people.
I can't remember, but one of the things that I think is really important about the building is that for about, I think it was 10 years, it was woman-owned. And I think, you know, I would like to see, and I didn't know if that was still in the narrative or not, but I think it's important to make sure, you know, women-owned mills in Durham, you know, and they tend to be excluded. So I want to make sure that when we have information on women-owned structures, we mention it.
Yeah.
It's historically
Yeah, well, we should
significant,
get-
actually.
We should get
That's
DHA to consider that because Nancy thought that it wasn't very significant, the amount of time, and it was like the widow of the minister. Anyway, we should go through that and see what's
Yeah, well,
significant.
it's like most things. There's a variety of viewpoints. And thanks for bringing that up, Tom. So at the August meeting, there may be applications and other things, but one of the things on the agenda will be the budget, our budget for 2025. And in that discussion, we also will talk about the work objectives we would like to do for this. Look at what we had planned this year, look forward, and some of that will be in looking at the town council's goals and objectives. So, and then the second thing in August, Sally is going to come and talk about the work of the housing task force and make a presentation. So, you motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second?
Second, and here it's not debatable. So we have to do the roll call vote. All right, Jennifer.
Yes.
Yes.